1. 2025 NBA offseason winners and losers, who came out on top. 2. Top 10 NBA offseason additions, Kevin Durant and more. 3. 2025 NBA free agency recap, 7 key takeaways. 1. 2025 NBA offseason winners and losers, who came out on top. The 2025 NBA offseason has already made waves, and while it's not yet concluded, significant changes have taken place that could reshape the league's hierarchy. The draft, trades, and free agency have set the stage for a new competitive landscape, leaving some iconic teams like the Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers in precarious positions compared to their previous standings. On the other hand, the Houston Rockets have boldly declared their intent to chase a championship, while the Indiana Pacers have made some questionable decisions that have left fans scratching their heads. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Hawks have quietly emerged as formidable contenders in the Eastern Conference. As we assess the early outcomes of this offseason, it's clear that some teams have positioned themselves for success, while others have stumbled. Let's dive into the winners and losers of this offseason so far. Winner, Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks have made headlines with their impressive moves this offseason, particularly during the draft. They capitalized on the Boston Celtics' need to cut costs by acquiring Kristaps Porzingis, effectively shedding the remaining 3 years and $47 million on Terrence Mann's contract. While Porzingis has had his share of injury concerns, he has just 1 year and $30.1 million left on his deal and has previously proven to be a valuable asset for championship teams due to his ability to stretch the floor. Additionally, the Hawks successfully outbid several teams to bring in Gilgeous-Alexander Walker, utilizing a $25 million trade exception from the DeJounte Murray deal. His contract is modest, just above the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, making it a savvy addition. The departure of Caris LeVert will be mitigated by the arrivals of NAW and Luke Kennard, who signed a 1-year deal, thus strengthening the guard rotation. Overall, the Hawks have not only added several key players ready to contribute immediately but have also secured what could be the most valuable future draft asset exchanged this offseason. Loser, New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans made a puzzling trade that sent an unprotected 2026 first-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for the right to move up from the 23rd to the 13th pick in the 2025 draft. This trade was so lopsided that, according to Shama Dua's report, the Hawks were initially incredulous about the offer. They had to confirm multiple times that the unprotected pick was indeed part of the deal, highlighting the Pelicans' lack of foresight. This miscalculation marks the Pelicans as significant losers this offseason, especially as they embark on the Joe Dumars era. The 2026 pick is unprotected and will be the better of New Orleans' own selection or that of the Milwaukee Bucks. While it may not be likely, there's a chance that this pick could end up being a top selection in the draft. Given the Pelicans' struggles and the uncertainty surrounding Zion Williamson's health, surrendering such a valuable asset for a mere 10-spot jump in the draft is a risky gamble. Winner, Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have emerged as serious contenders in the Western Conference following a flurry of strategic moves. They have positioned themselves as the primary challengers to the reigning Oklahoma City Thunder by making several impactful acquisitions. They traded for Kevin Durant from the Phoenix Suns, giving up Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 overall pick, and 5 second-round picks. They signed Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year, $53 million deal. They brought Clint Capella back on a 3-year, $21.5 million contract. They extended Jabari Smith Jr. for 5 years at $122 million. They extended Steven Adams for 3 years at $39 million. They agreed to a 2-year, $50 million contract with Fred VanVleet. They retained Jae'Sean Tate, Aaron Holiday, and Jeff Green on 1-year minimum contracts. By replacing Green with Durant and Brooks with the more reliable Finney-Smith, the Rockets have not only improved their roster but have also maintained their young core without sacrificing future draft assets. With the addition of Durant, they have addressed their previous struggles with shot-making, transforming into a dangerous two-way contender with significant upside. Loser, Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers find themselves in a precarious situation this offseason. Reports surfaced that Austin Reeves and his agent denied claims that he and LeBron James were unhappy playing alongside Luka Doncic. However, the damage may already be done, especially with James opting into his player option for the 2025-26 season instead of negotiating a new deal, a move he has never made before. Reeves, who was eligible for an extension, previously turned down a lucrative 4-year, $89.2 million max offer from the Lakers. This indicates that the team is not keen on adding long-term salary commitments as they shift their focus towards Doncic. While it may not be a bad strategy to gradually transition away from James, the reality is that Doncic is currently in his prime, and the Lakers should prioritize winning now. Finding a second star to pair with Doncic, who was more effective than a 41-year-old LeBron James, could prove to be a daunting task. Although DeAndre Ayton is a decent signing, it's hard to feel optimistic about a player whose previous team essentially paid him to leave. The Lakers appear to be entering a transitional phase, and while they may hope to capitalize on the 2026 free agency to build a contender around Doncic, the immediate future remains uncertain, and they may not be significantly better than last season. Winner, Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets have made some intriguing moves this offseason, particularly with the trade of Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick for Cam Johnson. While this could be seen as a financial maneuver, the subsequent actions suggest a desire to enhance their roster depth. Porter Jr. is known for his exceptional shooting ability, boasting a career three-point shooting percentage of 40.6%. Johnson is a close competitor at 39.2% and has shown he can shoot more frequently per possession. Thanks to the $17 million saved by this swap, the Nuggets were able to bolster their backcourt by adding Bruce Brown Jr. and Tim Hardaway Jr. Brown had a standout season with the Nuggets during their championship run in 2023, while Hardaway brings valuable shooting to the wing. Although they still need to secure a backup big man, the Nuggets have made significant strides in enhancing their roster, adding two crucial pieces to a team that pushed the Thunder to their limits in the previous postseason. Loser, Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics faced an unavoidable teardown following Jason Tatum's Achilles injury during the Eastern Conference semifinals. This unfortunate event made it impossible for the team to justify a payroll exceeding $500 million for the 2025-26 season, leading to a significant sell-off. The Celtics lost key players like Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks and Drew Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers, receiving Georges Niang and a second-round pick in return for Porzingis, and acquiring Anthony Simons and two future second-round picks for Holiday. This talent drain resulted in a total savings of approximately $27.2 million in salary and an additional $180 million in luxury tax payments. Despite the loss of talent, one silver lining is that the Celtics are now under the second apron as the next season approaches. However, this does little to alleviate the disappointment of fans who were hoping to see a competitive team. The Celtics dismantled a championship-caliber roster, with Al Horford remaining unsigned and Luke Kornet departing for the San Antonio Spurs, as circumstances forced their hand. In a broader sense, the real losers may be the fans who cherish seeing great teams remain intact. The penalties imposed by the collective bargaining agreement make it increasingly challenging for teams to maintain their star players. Winner, Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards took advantage of the Houston Rockets' crowded rotation following the acquisition of Kevin Durant by securing Cam Whitmore, a promising big wing scorer with star potential, for just a pair of future second-round picks. This addition is particularly valuable alongside their draft selection of Trey Johnson, who is regarded as one of the top shooting threats in the 2025 class. The number 6 overall pick will join Whitmore in enhancing a Washington offense that desperately needed scoring options between point guard prospect Bub Carrington and raw big man Alex Sarr. While it's important to note that the Wizards are still in the early stages of their rebuild, they are making smart moves by targeting the best available talent. By focusing on acquiring top prospects, they are setting their young players up for success. Additionally, the Wizards have continued their strategic financial maneuvers since trading Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns, swapping Jordan Poole, Saddiq Bey, and the number 40 overall pick for C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-rounder. This positions them to potentially have up to $100 million in cap space next summer, giving them a significant advantage in the league. Loser, Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers approached Miles Turner's free agency with an overly cautious mindset, treating any expenditure as if it would permanently entangle them in luxury tax territory, which they haven't encountered in 2 decades. In reality, exceeding the tax threshold to retain their top free agent wouldn't have been catastrophic. Teams can navigate their finances throughout the season to avoid the tax by the end of the year. Moreover, the Pacers had several trade candidates, such as Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, and T.J. McConnell, who could have been moved at the trade deadline to alleviate any tax concerns. The situation worsened as Indiana lowballed Turner, never offering more than $22 million per year, according to Jake Fisher. Ultimately, they lost him for nothing. Fortunately, the Pacers managed to regain their 2026 first-round pick in a separate deal with New Orleans, which could allow them to tank effectively without Tyrese Halliburton. However, watching Turner leave was a painful blow, especially since they could have retained him and traded him later for value if they had chosen to operate more strategically. 2. Top 10 NBA offseason additions, Kevin Durant and more. Let's face it, NBA offseason moves can make or break a franchise's future. Every transaction, no matter how small, carries the potential to shift power dynamics in the league. This summer has been no exception, with blockbuster deals and subtle roster tweaks reshaping the landscape of basketball before the next season even tips off. From Kevin Durant's jaw-dropping relocation to Houston to quieter but impactful pickups by teams like the Heat and Knicks, this offseason has offered plenty to dissect and debate. But here's where it gets controversial: not every move will pan out as expected, and some may even backfire spectacularly. So, let's dive into what I consider the 10 best offseason additions so far, ranked in order, while leaving room for Bradley Beal and Al Horford's unresolved situations. Where do you think they'll land? Let's find out. #1. Houston Rockets secure Kevin Durant. If there's one team that seems unstoppable right now, it's the Houston Rockets. Adding Kevin Durant feels less like a luxury and more like the final piece of a championship puzzle. Durant is arguably stepping into the best title opportunity he's had since his Golden State days. The Rockets already boast an elite defense anchored by Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., and Dorian Finney-Smith. With Durant's ability to guard multiple positions and contribute offensively, Houston suddenly looks like a two-way juggernaut. But let's talk about the real game-changer: offense. Last season, the Rockets were tantalizingly close to cracking the top 10 offenses, hindered only by inconsistent play from Jalen Green and a lack of reliable scoring options. Enter Durant, paired with Alperen Sengun, a fellow All-Star caliber scorer, and suddenly those issues vanish. Houston didn't just improve, they transformed into a legitimate contender overnight. And yet, the question remains: can Durant stay healthy enough to lead them all the way? #2. Orlando Magic bet big on Desmond Bane. Orlando made headlines by acquiring Desmond Bane in a bold trade involving 4 first-round picks and 2 rotation players. Some fans might balk at the cost, but hear me out, this could be genius. Bane provides exactly what the Magic needed most: consistent scoring and sharpshooting. While he isn't a traditional point guard, his ability to create space complements Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner perfectly. Now, when defenses collapse on drives, Bane becomes the lethal outlet they lacked last season. The ripple effect? Banchero and Wagner should see their efficiency skyrocket, even if their outside shooting doesn't improve dramatically. If it does? Look out, the Magic could become dark horses in the East. But was giving up so much worth it? That's the conversation we need to have. #3. Denver Nuggets swap Porter for Johnson. Imagine unloading Michael Porter Jr.'s hefty contract and landing Cam Johnson in return. Sounds too good to be true, right? Yet, that's precisely what the Nuggets pulled off. Johnson, an elite shooter who thrives off movement, pairs beautifully with Nikola Jokic. Not only does he replace Porter's production, but he does so at half the price tag. Factor in Bruce Brown and Jonas Valanciunas joining the squad, and Denver instantly vaults into the upper echelon of title contenders. Did the Nuggets just pull off the steal of the offseason? You decide. #4. Miami Heat snagged Norman Powell for pennies. After the dust settled on major signings, the Heat quietly executed one of the savviest deals of the summer, acquiring Norman Powell. For context, this guy averaged over 20 points per game last season while shooting better than 40% from 3. All Miami gave up? Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson. Talk about a bargain. Sure, Powell will command a hefty raise next summer, but for now, his $20 million salary feels like highway robbery. Is this enough to propel Miami back to contender status? Maybe not, but in the weaker Eastern Conference, anything's possible. Could Eric Spoelstra work his magic again? #5. Rockets steal Dorian Finney-Smith from Lakers. While Durant dominated headlines, don't sleep on Houston's acquisition of Dorian Finney-Smith. Not only did this weaken a direct rival in the Lakers, but it also added another versatile defender who can stretch the floor. Think of him as a slightly cheaper version of Alex Caruso, less flashy but equally effective within a strong defensive system. Here's the kicker: Finney-Smith signed for $53 million over 4 years, with the last 2 seasons non-guaranteed. For a player of his caliber, that's highway robbery. Was this the most underrated move of the summer? Arguably. #6. Cleveland Cavaliers land Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball joining the Cavaliers feels like destiny. Remember when Ball and Alex Caruso formed arguably the best perimeter defensive duo in Chicago? A healthy Ball brings that same energy to Cleveland, complementing Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland beautifully. Though not quite as dominant defensively as Caruso, Ball offers more offensive firepower. He's a master facilitator, pushing pace and finding open shooters with pinpoint accuracy. Next to Mitchell and Garland, he's evolved into a deadly catch-and-shoot threat. And here's the cherry on top: Ball's partially guaranteed contract gives Cleveland flexibility if injuries resurface. Smart move? Absolutely. But will it pay dividends come playoff time? Only time will tell. #7. Atlanta Hawks add Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. In a relatively quiet free agent class, Gilgeous-Alexander Walker stood out as a gem. His arrival in Atlanta bolsters a suddenly formidable defense. Pairing him with Trae Young addresses a glaring weakness, as NAW's tenacity offsets Young's limitations on that end. Throw in Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Zachary Rizicher, and Kristaps Porzingis, and you've got a defensive unit capable of competing in the East. But can they stay healthy? That's the million-dollar question. #8. Hawks double down with Porzingis. Speaking of Porzingis, his addition alongside Young creates one of the deadliest pick-and-pop duos in the league. Imagine Young navigating screens while Porzingis pops beyond the arc and Jalen Johnson slashes to the rim. Defenses won't know what hit them. Oh, and let's not forget Porzingis's rim protection. He held opponents to just 42% shooting last season. The only wild card? Health. If he stays on the court, this could be a franchise-altering move. But will he? #9. Clippers strengthen frontcourt. The Clippers deserve credit for their under-the-radar brilliance. Losing Norman Powell stings, but gaining John Collins softens the blow. Collins, revitalized after a stint in Utah, fits perfectly as a supporting star rather than a focal point. Meanwhile, Robin Lopez adds veteran depth behind Ivica Zubac, ensuring the frontcourt can hold its own against anyone. These aren't flashy moves, but they're smart ones. Will they be enough to keep pace with the West's elite? That's debatable. #10. New York Knicks bolster bench with Yabusel. The Knicks capped off a solid offseason by adding Gershon Yabusel, a sneaky good contributor who quietly excelled for Philadelphia last season. At nearly 14 points and 7 rebounds per 36 minutes, Yabusel offers scoring punch and defensive versatility. Whether spelling Josh Hart or filling other roles, he provides Mike Brown with valuable flexibility. It's not sexy, but it's effective. Can Yabusel elevate New York's bench to new heights? That's the hope. So, what do you think? Did I miss any moves that deserve recognition? Which team impressed you the most this offseason? Sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 3. 2025 NBA Free Agency Recap, 7 Key Takeaways. 2025 NBA Free Agency, 7 Takeaways from the first week of moves. The most controversial move of the year is here. The Denver Nuggets offseason overhaul has been a standout story, but the real drama is just beginning. As the first week of free agency unfolds, teams are scrambling to rebuild their rosters, with the Nuggets making a bold move to waive Damian Lillard, a decision that has sparked debate among analysts and fans alike. This move comes amid a landscape where the stakes are higher than ever, with players and GMs vying for top talent in a crowded market. A game-changing decision for the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks' decision to waive Damian Lillard is a major shift in their strategy. Lillard, a star player known for his versatility, was a key part of the Bucks' championship run in 2021. By waiving him, the team is trying to realign its roster to focus on younger, emerging stars. However, this move has raised questions about the long-term impact on the team's competitiveness. Critics argue that the Bucks may be underestimating the value of Lillard's experience, while supporters see it as a necessary step to build a more sustainable roster. The power of the stretch provision. The Bucks' use of the stretch provision to reclassify Lillard as a free agent is a critical tactic. This provision allows teams to restructure their payroll by converting non-typical contracts into free agents, effectively reducing the luxury tax burden. While this move offers short-term savings, it also risks exposing the team to future financial pressures if Lillard's performance declines. This highlights the delicate balance between immediate financial gains and long-term stability. The rise of the new wave of stars. In the wake of the Bucks' decisions, the NBA is witnessing a surge in young talent entering the league. Players like Miles Turner and Kristaps Porzingis are emerging as key figures in the market, but their success depends on the ability of teams to secure deals that align with their skills and financial capabilities. This trend underscores the importance of strategic planning in free agency, as teams must navigate the complexities of salary caps and player value. The impact of the salary cap. The salary cap has become a central theme in free agency, with teams constantly adjusting their budgets to stay competitive. The Nuggets' ability to trim costs while avoiding the luxury tax demonstrates the challenges faced by franchises that have suffered from free agent losses since winning the 2023 title. This situation raises questions about the sustainability of such strategies and the role of financial management in shaping the future of the NBA. The role of the draft and summer league. The timing of free agency, just days after the draft and before the summer league, adds to the pressure on teams. With the NBA calendar filled with high-stakes events, the first week of free agency is a critical period for decision-making. Teams must weigh the risks of losing top talent against the rewards of securing key players, creating a dynamic environment where every move can have far-reaching consequences. The financial burden of the B-ladder. While the A-list teams are vying for top-tier talent, the B-ladder is facing a tougher battle. The Celtics, for example, have seen their payroll cut due to high salaries, forcing them to make tough choices in a tight market. This reflects the broader financial challenges faced by teams across the league, where the cost of maintaining a competitive roster is increasingly prohibitive. The future of free agency. As the 2025 season approaches, the NBA is set to witness a transformation in how teams approach free agency. The competition for top talent will intensify, with players and GMs navigating a landscape filled with uncertainty. Will the Bucks' decisions mark a turning point for the franchise? How will the salary cap affect the balance of power in the league? These questions will shape the upcoming season and define the next chapter of NBA history. Sean Powell has covered the NBA for over 25 years. You can reach out to him via email, explore his archives, or follow his updates on Twitter.